Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Mark from Mix It Studios. Today I wanted to talk about hearing protection and why you should be concerned about it and why you should invest in a pair of custom molded earplugs like these. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the notifications bell as well if you would like to keep up to date with the regular videos that I post. Also hit the like button if you enjoy this video. So as a musician, a sound engineer, really anyone working in the live events industry, and also if you're a regular gig goer, why should you be concerned about hearing damage? Well, to put it into perspective, your average concert, say a rock band, those sort of gigs, it's going to be around 100 decibels to 105 decibels averaged. And if you take 85 decibels over a period of 1 to 2 hours, you are susceptible to hearing damage, prolonged hearing damage. If you step it up to 100 decibels, it's only 15 minutes. And then 110 decibels is around only 4 minutes. So you can see how the scale of time that you can be around loud volume, it quickly diminishes as you go up the decibel scale. When you think about your average gig, say you've got a couple of support bands and your headline act, and most bands are going to be playing between half an hour to an hour. If you are at a concert that is 100 decibels or more, you shouldn't be watching the duration of a band set without hearing protection. Of course, I'm not a hearing specialist, and if you are concerned about your hearing, I would definitely recommend going and seeing a specialist, get a hearing test. There are free options, which I will talk about in a bit, but really, it's something, if you're concerned about your health is worth the money if you can afford it. Once the damage is done, there's nothing really that can be done about it. I'm sure in the future, technology advancements and medical advancements might allow for stuff to be done about hearing, but as it stands, once your hearing is gone, it's gone. So to give you a brief understanding of how and why hearing damage occurs, in our ear canals there are thousands of tiny hairs that, when they are hit with vibrations, sound pressure levels, they sort of move up and down like this. But when they are hit with excessive noise levels over a prolonged period of time, they will struggle to stand back up again. Now, say if you were at a concert where you were around 100 decibels of volume for 15 minutes, and then you removed yourself from that volume for, say, another hour, the chances are that those hairs would then be able to recover. It's really when you are around those levels on a regular basis for extended periods of time where the risk really starts to get quite serious. So how do we deal with protecting our hearing? Well, earplugs are the main solution, really. Obviously, when you are a musician and a sound engineer, or if you are a gig goer and obviously you want to hear the show you're listening to well with the right amount of clarity, particularly if we are doing it for our jobs and it requires critical listening, we need an accurate representation of the music and the sounds we're hearing. So this is where picking the right set of earplugs really comes into play. So a set of custom molded earplugs like this from ACS, these are designed to have a relatively flat frequency response. The problem with the foam earbuds that you often get is that they are very effective at dealing with higher level frequencies, but as soon as you get lower in the frequency spectrum, they start to become less efficient. So they actually will often have a higher level of reduction than a set of custom molds like this will overall, but they aren't very accurate in terms of what you're hearing. These kind of earplugs are designed to really act as if you're just turning down the volume a notch, but still maintaining the frequency spectrum. They still do have an impact. So for me, if I'm mixing a live show, I will try and wear them as much as I can to give myself breaks from the noise levels that I'm being exposed to reduce the volume a bit, but I will be taking them in and out quite a lot because I can't rely on having them in the whole time. I need to hear what the audience are hearing as well, and that requires me to not be wearing earplugs. So it's often a case of a kind of managed risk and just trying to keep things in check, make sure you are subjecting yourself to the right levels of noise exposure, which can often be very difficult to manage because your typical modern rock show is usually louder than it should be. You know, a lot of venues don't manage their sound levels very well, so there isn't really necessarily any limit on the levels that can occur. And there's all sorts of things that come into play, you know, with stage volume and just a lot of aspects that you can't control, which can quickly amount to a lot of noise happening all at once. So getting a set of custom molds like these will create a seal that's fitted to the shape of your ear canal. So these are going to give you very good isolation, and these are designed with little filters that fit inside. I don't know if you can see that, but they fit inside the earplug, and you can swap those in and out. So there are various filters that they do, starting from 10 decibels of reduction up to 27 decibels of reduction. That's very good if you are sort of in multiple different scenarios where you maybe need differing levels of reduction. This is important because, particularly as a musician playing on stage, if you just go for the highest level of reduction, but actually it means that things are too quiet for you and you just end up turning up your stage volume, turning up those monitor levels, you can end up just sort of adding back to the problem again, and in a lot of cases just making the problem worse and actually subjecting yourself to higher levels of noise than you would do without the earplugs. So, you know, it's very important to be aware of how you use these and using them in the right way. I think particularly for musicians, a lot of musicians I come across just aren't very good at this because they're not very aware of how to use them properly. So I would say as a musician, the first thing you should do before just popping in your earplugs is think about your noise levels on stage and really try to manage those levels. You know, does your guitar amp need to be as loud as it is? Can your drummer play a little quieter? And I know, you know, there's lots of things that come into play there where your guitarist might say, well, you know, my amp needs to be at a certain volume to get my tone, man. Or the drummer, you know, will say, well, I can't, you know, I get into it and I play this hard and I can't control that. And that's true to an extent, but there are ways of managing this. There are ways of trying to adapt your guitar tone so that you can still get the same tone that you like, but at a lower volume. And as a drummer, maybe practicing when you're rehearsing to play a little quieter, but still maintain the same energy. A lot of drummers don't do this. They just don't really think about it and they just play as hard as they play, and they don't really actually try and practice trying to teach themselves to play softer but still maintain the same playing dynamics and tone. And it is possible with a little, you know, self-management and self-control. It can be done, and that's really where you should start looking first. Just try to address those stage levels and lower things as much as possible. Depending on the type of music you're playing, this is only ever going to be achievable to a certain extent, but it's going to make it an easier time for yourself and your band members. It's going to make things easier for the sound engineer with lower stage levels. They'll be fighting against stage volume less, and if they are a good sound engineer, they will not push things as loud in the PA because they don't have to, which makes it a better experience for everyone. It's safer for the audience, it's safer for the engineer, it's safer for the band. And if all those factors came into play and all happened like they should, then probably there'd be less need for these. I think there still would be a need for them, as even with all that kind of volume management, gigs are still very loud, certain instruments are very loud, so you're always going to be at a volume where there is going to be risk to your hearing. But we could certainly make it safer for everyone involved. So it's important to keep that in mind, as I think not only for your own sake and your own health and safety of your hearing, but also I think you have a level of responsibility towards others as well. But yeah, if you are investing in a pair of earplugs like these, the ACS plugs are definitely what I would recommend. These are probably the best custom molds and best earplugs all round that you can get in the UK, and I think worldwide really. These are not the cheapest, they're not the most expensive either. They are around £120, but there is a scheme, at least in the UK, through the Musicians Union, where you can actually get a pair of these for £40. So there's a scheme, I'll leave the link in the description, that you can sign up to. You don't have to be a member of the Musicians Union, and you can sign up to this scheme if you are a performing artist. I think this should apply to sound engineers as well. I hope so anyway. The ACS plugs come with a bunch of different removable filters, so you can pop these out and they are interchangeable. So you choose which filter you want to get when you get your set of custom molds, and then you can buy extra ones. I think they're pretty cheap, like £10 or £20. So you can vary the amount of noise reduction you get, anywhere from 10 decibels up to 27 decibels. So this is good for sort of choosing the amount of dB reduction you get depending on the scenario you're in. So, you're not always going to need loads of reduction, and it can mean that you can hear things more clearly, so that you don't have to turn those stage monitors up more on stage when you don't really need to, because you don't need the level of reduction that 27 dB would give you. You just need to bring things down a notch by, say, like 10 dB. Through the scheme with Musicians Union, you'll also get a examination by an audiologist, which will include a hearing test, which is really, really good. It's important, if you can, to go for regular hearing tests if you are working in the live events industry and you're around noise a lot. You want to keep a regular check on your hearing, as, like I said earlier, you really won't know until it's too late when your hearing starts to deteriorate. There are plenty of offers available all the time. If you look online, there are ways to get free hearing tests, the same as you would free eye tests. There's always offers and vouchers and stuff like that out there. If you have a look online, it's likely that you will find something. So I hope you guys found that useful. I wanted to cover the general topic without going too in depth, as it's a very extensive subject and I'm by no means an expert. This is just some of my experience as a sound engineer. When I was a young teenager, I was playing in loud bands all the time. I think the worst of it was playing in rehearsal rooms where we all had our amps turned up to 11. The drummer was bashing away on the drum kit, and yeah, our ears would be ringing after those practices, and then I would be going to gigs on the weekends all the time, and again, no hearing protection. So I was exposing myself to a lot there. It wasn't really until I started to work in the live music industry that I started really thinking seriously about my hearing, because I realized that, hey, this is something that I rely on for my job. Also, I love hearing. I love my hearing. I love hearing music and sounds, and I don't want to lose or compromise that. But obviously, being young and being a bit naive, I thought, hey, it's never going to happen to me. And a lot of people do that, unfortunately, and quite a few people do that for long enough until it's too late and the damage has already been done. If things are super quiet, say when I go to bed at night and there's no other noise around me, sometimes I can hear a very light ringing in my ears, and that is another thing that comes along with hearing damage, is tinnitus, which I'm sure you're probably aware of, but it is a ringing in the ears which can occur at all different types of frequencies. It sounds almost like a sine wave, like a tone, and you'll just hear it ringing in your ears, and it can be maddening for people who suffer with it chronically, who deal with it 24/7, and it's very, very loud in their ears. It can be, yeah, a really, really horrible thing to deal with and live with. I'm very grateful that it's very, very mild for me, and only when things are super quiet and it's occasional, it's not all the time, so I don't have to deal with it very often, and it's not gotten any worse over I'd say 10 years or so. So I'm lucky in that respect. And I think that's because I took action relatively early on. Make this investment today. It's worth it. Your health is worth it. Your hearing is worth it. I hope you guys found this video useful and informative, and it's kind of got you starting to think about your hearing if it's something you were sort of starting to question. There's loads of resources on there online which go way more into detail with the science and all of that behind it, so definitely do some research, go see a specialist if you feel you need to. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did, and I will see you guys again in the next one.